Hey guys, welcome back. So on the Booktube community, we pretty much all use Goodreads. A feature that I actually don't really use very much is the Goodreads recommendations section. So I've got it here, and you can filter it by genre, and I believe you can also filter it by bookshelf. I'm going to be doing genre, and I think I'm going to choose 3 different genres that I am interested in currently or that I'm interested in getting into later on, and I'm going to look at maybe the first 5 recommendations on each one, and I'm just going to let you guys know if it sounds like something that I would pick up. Usually I don't use the Goodreads recommendations. I just kind of get recommendations from Booktube or from friends or from wandering around in a bookstore. I do want to know if this is a good way to get recommendations for me, because I don't have to go anywhere and I don't have to do anything except open up my Goodreads app if I want to see some recommendations, right? But yeah, anyways, let's get started. So I think today I'm going to look into fantasy as one of my genres because I really like fantasy novels. As far as I know, this is going to be pretty much all ages of fantasy. It definitely looks like some of these are maybe middle grade books, but I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally cool with reading middle grade. So the first one that we've got here is Fablehaven by Brandon Mull. Let's see what that's all about. For centuries, mythical creatures of all description were gathered into a hidden refuge called Fablehaven to prevent their extinction. That's kind of cool. The sanctuary survives today as one of the last strongholds of true magic. Enchanting? Absolutely. Exciting? You bet. Safe? Well, actually quite the opposite. That actually sounds pretty cool. I mean, I think I would read it. I also have this thing where if I'm considering reading a book, I look at the ratings on Goodreads and I try not to choose books less than 4 stars unless they really sound like an interesting synopsis to me. This one has a 4.09 across over 100,000 ratings, almost 120,000 ratings. So that's pretty good. That bodes pretty well. I imagine that the recommendations are also things that are generally rated highly. So that's interesting. I think right now I'm not super interested in picking this one up, but based on some of the past books that I've put into my Goodreads, I can see why they recommended this for me. Okay, so the next one is The Dragon of Trellian by Michelle Knudsen. I hope I said that correctly. Okay, so this has a 4.02 across 1,700 ratings, so a lot less ratings than the last one. So this one's not super popular. And this says, Kaelin, a lonely young mage-to-be, never dreamed that Princess Meglin, I think that's how you say that, would become his friend. And impulsive Meg never imagined that tending a baby dragon would link her to the creature for life. Can a girl, a boy, and a dragon merge their magic and strength to bring down a powerful traitor in time to save the kingdom of Trellian? Again, I think this one's a little bit young for me. Not super interested in this one, although I think the reason why this was recommended to me is because when I was younger, I read the Septimus Heap series. I never finished it, but I started reading it and I started logging it on Goodreads, and this sounds pretty similar to that. Again, something I think I would read when I was younger. The third one here, The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. I am very pleasantly surprised, maybe, to see this on this list because I actually went to a used bookstore yesterday and I bought this book. So I guess it's time to put it on my want to read list. So yeah, let's see what this one is about. I have a vague idea, but let's read it anyways. Lyra is rushing to the cold far north, where witch clans and armored bears rule. Well, that sounds cool. North, where gobblers take the children they steal, including her friend Roger. North, where her fearsome uncle Asriel is trying to build a bridge to a parallel world. But what Lyra doesn't know is that to help one of them will be to betray the other. Okay, yep. Definitely glad that I picked that up yesterday. Okay, so now it looks like we might be getting into maybe like a YA fantasy. I think Samantha Shannon, The Bone Season it's either YA or adult, I'm pretty sure. And I'm gonna actually just go ahead and put it on my want to read right away because I have heard of this and I do want to read it. I just haven't put it on my want to read yet. So this is a good recommendation for me so far. And it says, the year is 2059. 19-year-old Paige Mahoney is working in the criminal underworld of Scion, London, based at 7 Dials, employed by a man named Jackson Hall. Her job, to scout for information by breaking into people's minds. I'm not going to go much farther into it. That sounds pretty cool. That sounds pretty amazing. A little bit Inception-y. Yes, I know that I'm interested in this one. So good job on the 4th recommendation, Goodreads. 5th one. Based on the cover, it looks like it's maybe a middle grade story. I'm not sure. It says, The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherine M. Valenti. And apparently the illustrator is Anna Juan. And I have heard of this book before, actually, and I'm pretty sure that I wanted to read it. So let's see. So it says 12-year-old September. I love when people have names that are the months, like September, August, December. I love that. 12-year-old September lives in Omaha and used to have an ordinary life until her father went to war and her mother went to work. One day, September is met at her kitchen window by a green wind, taking the form of a gentleman in a green jacket, who invites her on an adventure, implying that her help is needed in fairyland. Intriguing. Again, I'm not going to finish all of it, but that sounds intriguing. I think I'm going to put it on my want to reads. Yeah. So I believe out of 5 fantasy recommendations, I am going to be putting 3 of them on my want to read list. So that's awesome. So let's choose another genre. Let's go with what's something that I want to get into that maybe I'm not currently into. I'm thinking maybe like mystery thriller. Is that an option? No. Is it not an option? I guess because I haven't read mystery thriller before, they don't have recommendations for me. That's fair. Why don't we do science? Stick with something that I know. Unsurprisingly, I think a lot of my science recommendations are going to be like textbooks. So the first one we've got here is The Natural History by the Smithsonian. I personally love Smithsonian books, so I'm not going to necessarily put this on my want to read list because I don't think I'll be reading it cover to cover, but it's definitely a book I wouldn't mind picking up at some point just to kind of browse through. Moving on, we've got Stephen Hawking's Universe, The Cosmos Explained by David Filkin. So I actually don't know if this is like a biography or something like that. Let's see what this is about. So it says Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time has sold over 9 million copies worldwide. I'm pretty sure I have it actually. Yep. I do. I have it on my shelf. So I believe this is actually about, wasn't there a TV show? I don't know. Let's look at some of the reviews. A companion book for the BBC series. Okay, yeah. I don't know if I'm going to be reading this. I'm not really one to read companions that go along with TV shows. I know that I did read, or I listened to the audiobook of Stephen Hawking's The Theory of Everything. So that's probably why this was recommended to me. At least there's a reason. Introduction to Superstrings in M Theory. This looks like a textbook. I have no idea why this is here. So I guess Goodreads, because I put one physics book in as a prominent science book on my shelves, I guess they think that I'm obsessed with physics now. I guess that's just telling me that I need to read more science books and put them on my Goodreads. But if you're into physics, there's a recommendation for you. Faith versus Fact, Why Science and Religion Are Incompatible by Jerry A. Coyne. Interesting. I am fairly certain I know why this is here. Undeniable by Bill Nye. In that book, he does discuss a little bit of religion versus science. Yeah, I'm not super interested in reading something like this. Again, I can see why Goodreads is recommending it to me, but let's keep going. Goodreads is not doing great for science recommendations. I believe this is the last one. The Theory of Almost Everything, The Standard Model, The Unsung Triumph of Modern Physics. So Goodreads thinks I'm obsessed with physics. I thought I had more sciencey books on my Goodreads, at least on my want to reads list I do. I'm surprised that I don't have anything on climate change in here because it seems like most of it is physics based on Stephen Hawking's book, The Theory of Everything, that I read, or listened to rather. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe they don't classify Unstoppable by Bill Nye, which is the climate change book. Maybe they don't classify that as science. Maybe they classify it as nonfiction? I don't know. Not super interested in physics, not very good at physics. I do like Stephen Hawking's work, but I'm gonna say 0 out of 5 Goodreads on my science stuff. Maybe nonfiction will be more up my alley than science. So I said that I was only going to do 3, but I think I'm gonna do 4 because I do want to check out nonfiction and see if maybe it's a little bit more accurate. Maybe the sciencey books I've been reading are more considered nonfiction. So here we've got John Barrowman, Anything Goes. Okay, so I do read a lot of autobiographies. Namely, I read Simon Pegg's Nerd Do Well, which I think might be why this is being offered to me. I don't really know John Barrowman. Was he in Doctor Who? He may have been in Doctor Who. I can see why this was probably offered to me because I think he works in kind of like sci-fi media, like Simon Pegg tends to a lot of the time, but I'm not really interested. The Animator's Survival Kit. This is a book I actually own. I'm obsessed with like Disney animation and stuff like that. I don't keep my drawing books here. I keep them in my closet, but I do have this book and I love it. It's amazing. You guys should pick it up if you're at all interested in animation. The next one I've got is Animation, Walt Disney Studios, The Archive series. Super interested in, absolutely. So I'll put that on my want to read list so I can look at it later. For number 4, we have Where to Go and When. This is by Joseph Rosendo, I believe. Eyewitness Travel Guides. I would absolutely be interested in something like this. So I have on my Goodreads a couple of National Geographic travel books like Journeys of a lifetime type books that I was obsessed with when I was in high school. I love those books. They're amazing. Like they're pretty much like coffee table books, but I used to just like stare at them at night before bed and dream of going to all these different places in the world. Definitely gonna put that on my want to read because it looks really awesome. And the fifth recommendation in the nonfiction, cartoon animation by Preston Blair. I'm assuming this is a lot like the Animator's Survival Kit. I'm not gonna put this on my want to read right now. I think the Animator's Survival Kit will keep me good in that realm. So, but overall nonfiction was not bad. Maybe 3 out of 5 of my top recommendations I would revisit again. But I am interested to see that again, that whole area of science is not at all mentioned in nonfiction. I think I have 1 or 2 books by Stephen Hawking on my Goodreads, and that made like 4 out of 5 of my recommendations, physics recommendations. I'm kind of confused as to why I haven't got more recommendations based on climate science, considering I have that Bill Nye book, Unstoppable. Now I'm going to go into a genre that I don't read a lot of. Of these, the ones that I do have recommendations for, I think I'm going to do historical fiction. I think that would be cool. I don't know where these recommendations are coming from for history. So this is Mimas by Lily Thal or Thal. Is as luminous and entertaining as Cornelia Funk's Thief Lord or Inkheart. Yet Lily Thal, I'm going to say Thal, has created a dramatic and spellbinding universe all her own. The dark Middle Ages jump to life in blazing color in this world of adventure and imagination. So this is, I think, probably a middle grade novel, and it's actually kind of sounds cool. You know what? Yeah, I do want to read that. Moving on, we've got Colson Whitehead's The Underground Railroad. I've heard about this, actually, and I feel like maybe I've come across this book in high school. Cora is a slave on a cotton plantation in Georgia. I feel like I've read this. It says, life is hell for all slaves, but especially bad for Cora, an outcast even among her fellow Africans. She is coming into womanhood, where even greater pain awaits. When Caesar, a recent arrival from Virginia, tells her about the Underground Railroad, they decide to take a terrifying risk and escape. Matters do not go as planned. Cora kills a young white boy who tries to capture her. Though they manage to find a station and head north, they are being hunted. In Whitehead's ingenious conception, the Underground Railroad is no mere metaphor. Engineers and conductors operate a secret network of tracks and tunnels beneath the southern soil. Cora and Caesar's first stop is South Carolina, in a city that initially seems like a haven. Oh my gosh, so this is pretty long. I'm not going to go through all of it. It's there on the screen if you want to pause it and read it. I think I may have read this before. I may have read a story that was somewhat similar to this, but I would be interested to read this, either read this again or read this for the first time if it's simply similar to a story I've read. So yeah, The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. That sounds pretty intriguing to me as sort of a historical fiction story. Okay, so going on to the third one, we've got The Secret Life of Violet Grant by Beatriz Williams. Beatriz, I like that name. Manhattan, 1964. Vivian Schuyler. Schuyler? Newly graduated from Bryn Mawr College, has recently defied the privilege of her storied old Fifth Avenue family to do the unthinkable for a budding Kennedy-era socialite. Break into the Mad Men world of razor-stylish metropolitan magazine. But when she receives a bulky overseas parcel in the mail, the unexpected contents draw her back into her family's past and the hushed-over crime passionelle of an aunt she never knew. Oh, and then it looks like we have like a parallel story that takes place in 1914. I'm not really too interested in this story, to be honest. Like, I'm not really interested in the 60s. 1914 is a little bit more intriguing to me, but it doesn't really sound like my kind of thing, so I'm gonna say nah. So moving on to the fourth recommendation in historical fiction, we've got Leviathan by Scott Westerfeld, which I'm pretty sure, I thought I had this on my want to read list because this looks very familiar, but let's see what it's about. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Prince Alexander, would-be heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, is on the run. Okay, this already intrigues me because Austro-Hungarian throne, that sounds like a culture that I am not super familiar with, which really intrigues me. So, okay. Plus royalty. Love royalty. And it says, his own people have turned on him. His title is worthless. All he has is a battle-torn war machine and a loyal crew of men. Darren Sharp is a commoner, disguised as a boy in the British Air Service. She's a brilliant airman, but her secret is in constant danger of being discovered. With World War I brewing, Alec and Darren's paths cross in the most unexpected way. Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to put this on my, want to read. We are on to our fifth. So we've got A Brief History of Montmary by Michelle Cooper. Never heard of it. Sophie Fitzosborne What an interesting name. Sophie Fitzosborne lives in a crumbling castle in the tiny island kingdom of Montmoret, with her eccentric and impoverished royal family. When she receives a journal for her 16th birthday, Sophie decides to chronicle day-to-day life on the island. But this is 1936, and the news that trickles in from the mainland reveals a world on the brink of war. The politics of Europe seem far away from their remote island until 2 German officers land a boat on Montmoret, and then suddenly politics become very personal indeed. See, this does intrigue me. This sounds really cool, but this also sounds like a book that I would have to pick up and see what the writing is actually like, because this kind of story, I feel like if it's written in a certain way, it can be really cool. For me, it's pacing with stories like these, right? But there's also the possibility that it will be written in a way that is kind of boring and slow and monotonous. So I think this one, I'm gonna put it on my want to read list, but I'm gonna have to pick it up before I actually decide if I'm going to read it or not. So that's all I'm gonna do for today as far as Goodreads recommendations go. What did you guys think about this? Did you think that this was kind of a cool concept? Did you enjoy watching something like this? I know it's probably going to be a little bit more of a long video, so I do apologize for that. We looked at fantasy, we looked at nonfiction, we looked at science, and we looked at historical fiction. Have you guys heard of the recommendations that Goodreads gave to me across the 4 categories that we looked at? So I think that's everything I've got for you today. If you did enjoy this video, do not hesitate to like and subscribe for future videos. Also, drop a comment down below if you are so inclined. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!